I just want to report on this Portugal wildfires that have happened the last couple of days. I immediately noticed something wrong with it, and I'll show you what I mean. But let's just look at this first bit of news that came out about it, and I'll point out a few things. Let's see if you notice them too.
Portugal has been battling wildfires for more than a week. Entire villages have been surrounded by flames. More than 4,000 firefighters have been deployed to extinguish more than 100 separate fires across the mainland. São Pedro do Sul was the latest town to be engulfed in flames.
Esta é uma luta injusta.
This is an unfair fight, because it doesn't just depend on us. The weather is an important factor, so we do our best. There are more than 800 involved in operations. The goal is to put out the fire.
Com a finalidade de resolver este incêndio.
Drone footage shows the charred ruins on the island of Madeira. 3 people were killed and more than 200 buildings were damaged or destroyed after one.
Okay, I just want to... Let's go back to that bit and see if you can spot what I can spot. Now, this is normal for Madeira. This isn't charred, burnt hillsides. This is what Madeira and all those kind of rocky island, Atlantic seaboard kind of places look like. They're all barren and they've got very thin soil. They're rocky. Okay? They're not covered in lush green forests. This looks like it's at the top of the mountain range as well. This is probably above the tree line anyway. These are just exposed rocks down here. So there's no evidence from this footage of fire damage at all.
100 buildings were damaged or destroyed after wildfires broke out. 3 people were killed and more than ruins on the island of Madeira.
That's normal for Madeira.
3 people were killed and more than 2. Drone footage shows the charred ruins on the island of Madeira. 3 people.
Yeah. Malta, all those islands are like that. Right, I'll show you another bit, which is a bit more revealing. Now look at this. The fire supposedly is a wildfire, so it's spreading through the vegetation. Okay. Now, the vegetation here still got its leaves on, and all the thin branches, which should have been the first ones to burn, are still there. And yet, the heat was so intense, it was able to completely destroy these vehicles. Look at them. All the glass is melted out, the metal's buckled and deformed. All the paint's burnt off. So it's an intense heat, and yet the heat was supposed to have reached the cars from the vegetation, the trees, and the trees are intact. Tell me what burns, what needs a hotter temperature to burn, metal and glass or wood? Obviously the wood would have gone first, right? This is exactly the same as Gatlinburg. Look at those saplings down there. They didn't burn. And yet, look at the vehicles, the cars are completely almost melted, the metal. And yet these little twigs and stuff, they didn't burn. And yet the fire was supposed to have reached the cars from the trees. Look at this car, it's melted into the road. Even the tarmac and the road is melted, given way. And yet the trees have still got bark on them, look. Now this is a directed energy weapon. Focused heat. Right, but the engine's completely exposed, it's destroyed the car, and yet these little thin spindly branches all perfectly intact. Those trees should have burnt away. Look at what it's done to the road. Okay, this is directed energy, microwave beam weapon from above. This is the same way that they brought down the Twin Towers. septic. They've had this since at least the 1920s. They've been sitting on it, keeping it went black, you know. Looks identical to the Gatling fires. Look, vegetation intact. Trees just lying there. Look at that. All those leaves are still on the trees. And yet the intense heat was so intense that it destroyed this vehicle, which is made of metal. Okay, and again, look, we have the trees perfectly intact, not damaged, the leaves are all there. And yet the vehicle completely incinerated at a very high temperature. Road destroyed. Look at it, all the surfaces. Looks like they just run a beam along there and kept the beam going as it's gone down the road. Trees perfectly intact. They should have been destroyed. So that was from RT. Let's have a look at the Gatlinburg footage. So here we're going to see the Gatlinburg. Again, this is a drone tour of the damaged area. Okay, same format. Drone tour.
Channel 5's Chris Conti, photojournalist. Our team coverage.
Here we go. Okay, aerial tour, same thing. Similar sort of terrain, right? Mountainous trees and stuff. Same format.
Tennessee's deadliest wildfire began. It is harsh, unforgiving terrain, and it is
Blah-de-blah.
moisture for months. The iconic get untouched.
Now look at this. Look, you can see, can't you? Trees a bit damaged here, but around the trees have even got leaves on. Look, and yet the houses have completely been destroyed. Completely. This looks like sort of cement or. But anyway, they're completely destroyed. You'd think they'd be black, but who knows? Maybe for some freaky reason they got white ash all over them. Yeah, the trees have still got leaves on them and little branches and twigs. What I'm saying is that the heat originated here and then slightly singed the surrounding area. It did not reach the houses from the surrounding area, because the surrounding area would have had to be completely incinerated. And then they're untouched, as he says. Highly selective.
Destroyed the skylift, sparing the chairs themselves, but destroying the...
Look at this tree here. This should have had its leaves and little branches burnt off, and yet it's intact, and yet the ground... What's he saying?
Wheelhouse. Dollywood remains unscathed, while community the chairs themselves, but destroying the wheelhouse. The fire almost destroyed the skylift, sparing the chairs themselves, but destroying the wheelhouse.
Destroyed the wheelhouse. Another house completely destroyed. Just like in 9/11, it works selectively on whatever material they dial it to affect. It's infrasound, you know, it's a frequency thing. The trees, they were probably burnt by the heat radiating off the focus of the directed energy beam, which was the building here, which completely flattened, destroyed.
Dollywood remains unscathed, while communities above have disappeared into obscurity.
Look at this. These houses completely destroyed. Very focused. Only on the houses. See, all the trees around, intact. Houses destroyed. Very, very focused. This is what? This is a concrete car park. There's nothing to burn there, and yet it's been destroyed. This is concrete and brick that's burnt and destroyed.
And then there's this, the Westgate Resort, where at least 2 people were trapped in an elevator.
Entire resort completely destroyed.
Only half the resort still stands. The damage from this one spot looms over downtown Gatlinburg. You cannot truly understand.
Loads of trees still standing. Look at that.
Unless you see it with your own eyes.
Trees, all these little thin little twiggy bits, they would have gone straight away in that kind of heat.
Close to 2,000
And yet the houses, the trees, all the trees down here, totally intact, unharmed, everywhere, surrounding them.
homes and businesses
Trees intact, trees, unharmed.
destroyed.
This place destroyed. Look at that. The heat was focused on the building. It didn't reach the building from the surrounding trees because they are intact. Look at that.
Their best to restore some semblance of normalcy
It's
to this
microwaves
place.
or
A place that is
infrasound,
still shrouded in
directed
beauty,
energy
even
weapon.
though right now it is hard to see.
I'm going to show you one more example. They've had this since the 20s at least. What happened was that Tesla, he informed the government in the 20s, whatever it was, Department of Defense, and offered to give them the technology, but they refused. They refused it, and they confiscated after he died, whatever year it was, in 1950, something like that. They confiscated all his research papers and took them a couple of years to get it up and running, and then they tested it on civilians. I'll show you. So these are all from the 50s. It's just a few years after Tesla was died, and they got hold of his research papers. They were able to test it out. They chose lonely old people who lived alone, who wouldn't be missed, and there wouldn't be any witnesses. Now you see the lady's legs here. Let's look at the image a bit better. The lady's legs are, the skin isn't even blackened. Okay, that's raw meat there, and yet here it's completely incinerated, but only here. It's focused, extreme heat, really focused. What they wanted to demonstrate was that they could hit a person in their living room. You know, the beam will travel through walls, it'll travel through the roof, and they can just dial it in the location of the person and hit them with a very specific, very focused beam that wouldn't damage anything around. I mean, that kind of heat, that would have set the whole house on fire, and yet even her legs, lower half of her legs, are not damaged. So let's have a look at another one. Again, this is another example. These were all in the 50s, and they were old ladies who lived alone. And this is, if that's to be believed, I mean, we don't know. This could have been a human cadaver that they set up in a you know, like in James Bond, you've got Q, who makes all the secret weapons. This could have been Q's laboratory here, and he said, let's test it out on a human cadaver, put it in the chair, and see if the furnishing's going to be damaged, see how focused we can get the beam. I don't know, but these are reported to have been actual incidents that were, you know, people were spontaneous human combustion, they called it. Mysteriously, these people just burnt out sitting in their living room, and the fire didn't spread. Another example, exactly the same profile. The leg, the shoe, the lace holding the shoe on, completely undamaged, the body completely incinerated, and yet the house wasn't set on fire, didn't spread at all, and yet it would have been a very, very intense heat to damage. Another example here, look, they're all exactly the same. Okay, this was a series of tests they were doing in the 50s. So what I'm saying is they're still using it. Another example, same profile, right? Another one, exactly the same, old lady on her own. Who knows, maybe they were cadavers, or maybe they were actually people that they chose because they were loners, they were lonely old people who wouldn't be missed. I don't know. Directed energy weapon. I don't know if that's a real one. It might be from a movie, but these are genuine ones, and that's just showing you what what it looked like. It's not real. So we've got Gatlinburg, and we've got the Portuguese thing. Exactly the same profile yet again. Let's have a look at these. This other video here. Gatlinburg. After the fire, massive wildfire devastates town.
Looks like those are ATVs.
Yeah, look, there's trees and everything around them, completely undamaged, and yet these are metal that are being completely destroyed.
Hey all, Carpetbagger here. I am in...
Okay, these trees shouldn't be standing here. They were supposed to be on fire. They caught it from the other trees and spread it to that vehicle, and yet the vehicle is the focus of the heat, obviously. Look at it.
These are just people's homes that have just been...
Look at this tree here. It's undamaged. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit singed, but if it was hot enough to destroy a brick house...
completely burnt to ashes.
Some of those trees were damaged there, just stumps, but these ones are still okay. So this is, look at this. I mean, it just goes on and on. You can look at these yourself, find them for yourself if you're interested. I'm just demonstrating it's the same technology, same profile.